Time now for The Real Estate Connection with Stephen Thayard, a realtor and certified probate and real estate specialist. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer or a seasoned investor looking to downsize, move up, or refinance, this program is for you. Our house in the middle of a street. You that you go to in the middle of. From probate sales to landscape design to home repairs and maintenance, this is your weekly look into all things real estate. Now your host for the Real Estate Connection, Stephen Thayard.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I thought it would be nice to have my intro music. We're still doing our shelter in place episodes, so I'm going to call into the radio station right now. And we are going to start recording this show we're going to start recording the show. Hey, this is my producer. Marco is out for the day, so what's your name again, sir? Vince. Vince is my my producer today. So I'm gonna ask Vince to kick up the intro music that you guys just heard, and then we're gonna start the show, which is the effects of skipping a mortgage payment and Governor Newsom's California executive order on evictions and foreclosures during the shelter in place that we're dealing with. So Vince, if you would start the intro music, that would be great. All right, he's playing what you guys just heard. All right. That's right. This program's for you. I hope you guys are dealing with this shelter in place order pretty well out there. You have to bear with me, folks, because I am still trying to figure out this technology now that I'm doing this remotely. Good morning. Welcome everybody to our second edition of the Real Estate Connections Shelter in Place Edition 2. Thank you for joining me today as we go through all things real estate in the Bay Area. I am your host, Stephen Thayard, with KFAX 1100 out of San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, San Martin, Morgan Hill, and Gilroy for our South Bay Area people. I am the host of the Real Estate Connection. So, welcome, and I appreciate you spending time with me this morning. I know with a lot of us off of our natural work schedules, if you're up early, I really appreciate your commitment to the show. Today's topic is going to be, what are the effects of skipping a mortgage payment and Governor Newsom's California executive order and how it relates to evictions and foreclosure. I hope you are all hanging in there with this statewide shelter in place. Can you believe it? In 1 week, we have gone from sheltering in place for just 5 counties to the entire state is shut down. The governor has even indicated that schools will be closed for the rest of the year. Now, I personally am hoping he will change his course as the situation improves. I'm thinking that probably it will get better. So I'm hoping that the kids will have a chance to have their graduation ceremonies. I feel bad for the class of 2020. You've been in school for how many years now, and you're getting ready to graduate, and you've been looking forward to that feel of walking across the stage and having all your family members celebrate your accomplishment, and that could be gone. So I'm hoping that we're going to turn the corner, hopefully by Easter, and we'll all be out and about again, and we'll be able to kick schools back into high gear and have our graduation services. So thank you to all of the medical professionals who are working overtime, along with fire, police, Grocery stores, can you believe it? Grocery stores are now our new heroes. They're staying open in this crisis. Thank you to the restaurants who are still serving us food and putting those precautions in place for picking things up to go. And food delivery services. Who would have thought that being a DoorDash driver would now be considered a hero's work in our economy? And thank you so much to you people out there that are doing this. It's absolutely amazing. So also, this is a reminder to support your local restaurants as much as you can. Um, I have found that the social distancing is harder than I thought, and I personally miss attending church in person. Last week, we had church remotely via the internet, and it just isn't the same as gathering all the saints together. So, in keeping with our efforts to stop the spread, I have a bit of advice directly from the Word of God. So, here it is. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. That's Proverbs 27:12. And I will repeat that. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. So, my advice to you is be prudent and take refuge at home in this short period of time that we're dealing with this crisis. Do not be simple and just continue as business as usual and pay the penalty for it. So, with keeping of the theme of blessings, I would like to bless you with information on what are the effects of skipping a mortgage payment issue if you should have to do so in this crisis, and information on the governor's executive order and how it relates to evictions and foreclosures during the crisis. But before we get started, I want to bless you with something else. If you email me for a no obligation appointment to give you an estimate on the value of your home or just sit down to discuss the prospect of buying a home, I have a gift for you. I'd like to give you a copy of a book called The Family Preparedness Buyer's Guide. This is a must-have book for any family preparing for any emergency. So if you had a copy of this book before this whole crisis took off and you were following some of the instructions in there, you will have already have been prepared. So it's not too late to get caught up for the next emergency. So this bestseller will provide you and your family with information on the best survival gear, tools, and weapons for your skills and budget. It includes chapters on emergency shelter, fire, clothing, emergency food and cooking gear, communication and navigation, and survival guns. I have a copy of this book, and it is a very easy read with lots of useful information. So, now let's get down to the business at hand. Unfortunately, the coronavirus has come into all of our lives. We live in a very high cost of living area in the state of California, and many people are living paycheck to paycheck. So, like I've said before in other broadcasts, because of the high cost of living, it makes it difficult to save for a rainy day. Additionally, our culture has moved towards one of instant gratification, meaning many are adverse towards saving and spending money more freely than past generations. So you're seeing a shift where this current generation may be more geared for live for today, let's go out and have fun, take those trips and vacations, and less towards sacrifice and saving and delayed gratification. So with the culture shift and the high cost of living, you or one of your loved ones could find themselves in a situation where you are not able to pay a mortgage payment for a month or two. And that can easily happen. Like I've said before, we have high taxes, we have high gas prices, we have high utility bills, and a high rent that contributes to this high cost of living in the Bay Area. So with each paycheck, you're either paying your mortgage, and all of your bills, and you barely have enough left over to have, say, a dinner out or to do a couple of fun things for the family. And there's pressure on you to do those things, and so it's more difficult to save, especially in Northern California and the state of California itself in general. So with this, so I did some internet research and came across an article on Realtor.com, written on December 26, 2017 by Daniel Bortz. The article indicates, first of all, that mortgages are generally due on the first of the month. So my producer says I have 2 minutes, so we're going to kind of get into this a little bit, and then we're going to get into it more deep when we get back from our commercial break. But generally speaking, if you get into financial difficulty, mortgages are generally due on the first of the month. However, most mortgages have a 14-day grace period before any kind of penalty is charged. So generally speaking, you have until the 15th of the month to make your mortgage payment before there's a late penalty added to the cost. So this allows an additional 14 days for you, which is really good news. So if you've been, say, furloughed from work and but you're intermittent in your work and you think you can still make your mortgage, you're just not going to be able to make it on the first of the month, you get an additional 2-week grace period, which is really good news. So the article goes on to say that some loans only have a 10-day grace period before the penalty kicks in. So my advice to all of you is, if you're not sure, call your lender and find out whether or not it's 15 days or 10 days before the penalty kicks in. Now, when we get back from the commercial break, we're going to go into what those penalties generally are for most mortgages, so you have an idea based on what you currently are paying monthly. If you had to go past that 15-day timeline, what additionally it would cost you. So we'll get more into it when we get back from the break. We'll see you in a minute. All right, hang on. He's queuing up the return music, so we're gonna get into the second section of the show, and we're gonna talk about more in detail what it means for you if you have to skip a mortgage payment during this financial crisis. Actually, not financial crisis, but this health scare, which may cause some financial difficulty. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me this morning on the Real Estate Connection with your host, Stephen Thayard, out of KFAX 1100 out of San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and for my South County folks, San Martin, Morgan Hill, and Gilroy. In today's show, we're talking about what are the effects of skipping a mortgage payment. Should you become or should you find yourself in financial difficulty because of this shelter in place order that we have in the state of California? There are a lot of people that pay their bills or pay their mortgages through work at restaurants, work at retail shops, clothing stores, or are bartenders, and they make good tips. And a lot of my friends out there are actually entertainers. So if you sing for a living and you're doing shows and you're no longer able to go out and gather large groups of people in order to make a living and pay your mortgage, this information may be very helpful for you. So before we went into the break, we were discussing that generally speaking, a mortgage is due on the first of the month. But most mortgages allow a grace period before a penalty on that mortgage payment kicks in. Generally speaking, it's 14 days, which means you have all the way up until the 15th of the month before your mortgage payment is deemed to be late. However, I was also speaking about, before we went to the break, that it can be 10 days. So my advice is that you get on the phone if you think this may be an issue for you coming up in the near future. Ask your mortgage servicer when that mortgage penalty kicks in, if it's 10 days or 14 days. Okay, so late fees, if you should go past that time frame and they start to incur late fees on your mortgage payments, the article indicates that the average payment penalty percentage is between 4 to 5% on an overdue payment. So for a $4,000 mortgage payment with a 5% penalty, you would be looking at an additional cost of $200. So you should know this and try to see whether or not it's something that you could withstand in the future. Now, the Senate and the House of Representatives, actually, the Senate and the White House, have come to an agreement on a deal on a bailout, well, not a bailout package, but a financial support package for a lot of people who may be being hurt financially in this situation. And what I hear is that there is relief coming. So, if you have to skip a mortgage payment and you qualify for some of this relief, it may be okay. So it's good to know how much money additionally you would have to pay if if you are late on a mortgage payment. So again, it's usually between 4 to 5%, but again, you should get on the phone with your mortgage servicer, find out how much it is so that you can prepare for it. So, let's move into the next section. So how will a missed mortgage payment affect your credit? So even though we're seeing financially an addition, financially from the federal government support to get you through this short window of time where you may be affected with a financial hardship, skipping a mortgage payment will definitely cause a hit to your credit. So we're going to discuss how that affects your credit. So the article that I'm quoting from Realtor.com, the article indicates that lenders report late mortgage payments due to the credit bureaus after they become 60 days past due. So that's good news as well. So if you're only one payment behind and you're only 30 days late or 45 days late, generally speaking, based on what this article indicates, you should not have a mortgage late reported to the credit bureau and affect your credit. So the article means this means you have 2 months to make the missed payment before it hits your credit. That's good news because as this bill that comes out from the Senate and hopefully from the House of Representatives provides some financial relief in cash infusion, and they're talking about sending out checks to people if you meet a certain income level, that I believe is $1,200, and it could be now $1,000. I don't know if the bill's changed for a single individual up to a certain income level, and for married people, I think it's either $2,000 to $2,400. That for the middle of the country and low cost of living areas and not high cost of living areas will cover mortgage payments easily. And then they're also talking about $500 per child. So if you have 2 children, that's another $1,000 on top of that. But for us high cost of living states, it will at least put a dent into your mortgage payment. And so if you're coming up short, it could bridge the gap for you to be able to make those payments. So like I said before, it's 60 days past due before it is reported to the credit bureaus. So if you should go that full 60 days without making a payment to your lender and it gets reported to the credit bureau, how will it affect your personal credit? So the article indicates for those with excellent credit at levels of 780 points or higher with 0 missed payments on their credit score, you could see a 90 to 110 point drop in your credit score. Now, I know that's a big hit, right? But it still will not crater you. If you're at 780 and you drop 100 points, you're still at 680. And if you make that payment back and you keep moving forward, you still should be able to build your credit back into the 7s and have what we call good credit. Good credit is strong enough to get a mortgage or to get a car loan and to get pretty decent rates. And you should be able to recover, hopefully by the end of the year, to crank that credit score back up into that high 780s. But the point is that your credit score will take a hit if a mortgage late is reported to the credit bureaus. Okay, so the next question that generally people are worried about should they have to miss a mortgage payment is, will the bank foreclose on my house? And that's a scary thing to think about, because you've been working for years, you've got a 30-year mortgage, and maybe you've been in your house 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You put a lot of sweat equity into it. You've been working hard at your job to make your payments, and this is something that's come upon you that's at absolutely no fault of your own. You didn't do anything to cause this virus to hit the United States of America. You were just living your life. Now all of a sudden you're working from home, or if you're working in a restaurant industry or a retail clothing shopping industry, whether you're a manager or you're working on the floor, all of a sudden you're sitting at home and you may not be receiving a paycheck. I know for me as a real estate professional, we are not allowed to go out and show property. We can't get in our cars with our clients and take them around to look at houses. And if we have a house listed for sale that we've been engaged to do, we are no longer able to hold open houses. Now, this is the right thing to do. It's a small sacrifice for the nation. As somebody once said, don't ask what your nation can do for you, but ask what you can do for your nation, right? This is our time to give back to the country to stop this thing from moving forward. However, it can be scary because you've been working really hard to keep yourself financially in a good position. So the question does come up, will missing a mortgage payment cause my bank to foreclose on my house? So the answer to that question is more than likely no. Missing one mortgage payment will not trigger the foreclosure process in keeping your home. Generally speaking, it takes a lot more than that for banks to even start the foreclosure process. And this is because of what happened when we had the mortgage meltdown back in 2008. Banks rushed in to start foreclosing and they panicked. And they started just going full bore, hiring people to get it done because they were really afraid of what was going to happen financially moving forward. However, as we moved through the crisis, the banks realized it was not in their best interest to foreclose, but actually to slow that down and work with borrowers to help them keep their property and make adjustments to their loans so that they wouldn't have to spend the money to pull it back from them and then have to resell it. So my producer says I have 30 seconds, so we're going to wrap up this segment, and then when we get back, I'm going to get into the details of what it takes to actually have a mortgage servicer start the foreclosure process and how long it takes, so that it'll give you some comfort and so that you can plan. So we'll see you when we get back from paying some bills. I'll be back. Thank you very much. My producer is on it today. He's just like clickety, 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 click right through this thing. It's fantastic. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining me this morning on the Real Estate Connection. I am your host, Stephen Thayard, a realtor, a practicing realtor in Northern California. And I'm here today to talk to you about real estate and the effects of skipping a mortgage payment. And we're going to also talk about California's executive order signed by Governor Gavin Newsom and how it affects evictions and the foreclosure process. Now, before we went to the break, we were talking about whether or not missing a mortgage payment would cause the foreclosure process to kick in. And based on what I've read and what I know from prior experience, missing one payment will not start the foreclosure process. And when we were in the last segment, we were discussing how back in 2008, when the mortgage meltdown happened, banks rushed into the market to start foreclosing. They hired people in data centers from all over the country, sending out letters, cranking up their attorney staff, and just filing these things left and right and started just foreclosing on people all over the place. In the process, we got to be really quick. And then we started seeing robo-signers. I don't know if you guys remember that, but banks are required to have a wet signature on the notifications that they're sending out to you in regards to whether or not you're in the foreclosure process. And they started rubber stamping these things, which was illegal. And the state of California stepped in with other issues like dual tracking, which means if you were trying to get a loan modification on your mortgage, or you were working on a short sale to sell your house and not have a foreclosure be on your record, they were running the foreclosure process at the same time as modifications to your loan program. And so California wrote into a law that it's now illegal to dual track, which is go after you for foreclosure while you're still working out a deal with your lender. So that's illegal now. So if you find that yourself in that situation and they're not adhering to the law, call an attorney and get them involved, because that law has not changed. But in regards to whether or not skipping a mortgage payment in California is going to cause a foreclosure, it generally speaking will not for one payment. The article that I've researched from Realtor.com indicates that your mortgage will go into default if you are more than 90 days late. Okay, so you're missing one payment, that's 30 days. It takes 60 days in order for them to report the late payment to the mortgage to the credit bureaus, and then it takes 90 days of missing payments before your loan goes into default. Now, just because your loan goes into default doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be sold on the courthouse steps the next month. That just means that there's a notice of default filed and they can begin the foreclosure process. That means they can. Now, there's a lot of other steps involved in foreclosure that generally takes, I'm guessing, up to about a year. I don't have the numbers in front of me. If you'd like to know those numbers in detail, I suggest doing some internet research, or you can contact me at info@realestateconnectionradio.com. I believe I've done a show in the past on the foreclosure process that goes into detail about this. Just top of my head, I'm not remembering how long, but I believe it's at least a year before it goes into danger zone for people who are worried about losing their house. So again, 30 days is your late payment, and it takes, I think, more than 15 days before a late payment penalty kicks in, according to the research in the show. And then it takes 60 days before it's reported to the credit bureau, and then 90 days before a notice of default. However, the article also says you can typically pay your most recent bill after this 90-day notice of default gets filed, before the foreclosure proceedings begin. So once that 90-day NOD or notice of default is filed, if you go back and pay just one mortgage payment, they'll rescind that notice of default because they consider you current. Even if you do have two other payments that are outstanding, they'll consider you current as far as foreclosure is considered. And then you can work out programs with your lender to try to get current or keep yourself from moving forward into foreclosure. So this brings me to my next point. So what should be done if you or a loved one are going to miss a mortgage payment, right? So you find yourself in this crisis, you can't go to work, you don't have a month's worth of savings in your bank account, you're not getting a check, the unemployment isn't going to cover your mortgage because it's higher than that. And you're just looking at the potential of missing a mortgage payment. And it may not be you, it could be a loved one. So if you're listening to this, this could be good advice for a family member. The first thing to do is to contact your lender and explain your financial situation. You may be pleasantly surprised to find out that your mortgage holder is willing to work with you during this unprecedented time. There are a lot of things that aren't business as usual right now in the marketplace. Mortgage servicers out there understand that there are a lot of people on hard times because they can't necessarily meet their mortgage payments and they're starting to work with people. You also may qualify for what's called a forbearance. Okay, let me say that again. You may also qualify for a forbearance. A forbearance is an extended grace period on your loan payments. The grace period can be from 1 to 3 months. However, each forbearance is negotiated individually and time periods are unique to each borrower. So, again, my advice is if you think you're going to miss a mortgage payment, is don't miss it and not contact your lender or your mortgage servicer. Get on the phone, call them, let them know that you have a financial difficulty and that you're staring at not being able to make a payment, and talk to them about it. See if you qualify for a forbearance, which is basically extending that time period before they're going to report to the bureaus or kick you into a foreclosure process, and see if you can negotiate that with them individually. Like I said before, this is situation by situation, so get on the phone and talk to them about what's going on. All right, so my producer has told me we have 2 minutes. In our next segment, we're going to talk about what protections the governor, based on his executive order, has put into place statewide in the shelter in place, how it relates to orders of evictions and foreclosures. There have been some statewide protections put out there, but they're limited. They're not all encompassing. So I want to read that to you so you get a better understanding of how it could affect you personally. So how much time do we have left? I don't think my producer can hear me. A minute and a half. All right, so I'm going to get into it a little bit. So the governor of the state of California issued an executive order on March 16th of this year, which provides some protection from eviction and foreclosure during this statewide shelter in place. I am going to read to you the text of the order when we get back from the break, because it's going to break down to you in detail what it protects and what it doesn't protect. So like I said before, if you're looking at missing a mortgage payment, get on the phone with your service provider, see what you can negotiate as far as a forbearance or maybe even some sort of extended time frame before they will kick in a payment penalty or reporting the credit bureau so it affects your credit, or if you think it's going to be longer than 90 days, stopping them from or hoping that they will not file a notice of default on your property, because that's really a really strong hit to your credit. So stay with me and I'll see you when we get back from the break. Oh, what is this the last 5-minute segment? No, I thought we did 3 long ones. Oh, Lord have mercy, I don't have enough content. We did. Everybody's watching me. I'm talking to my producer. We're going to have to vamp. Because this show's gone by faster than I expected. But that's okay. I got stuff to talk about. It's going to be good. All right, go ahead. All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining me this morning as we are talking about the effects of skipping a mortgage payment and California's executive order on evictions and foreclosures. Before we went to the break, I was talking to you about an executive order that the governor of the state of California signed on March 16th, 2020, which provides some protection from eviction and foreclosure during the statewide shelter in place. The order is in effect, unfortunately, without an end date. He has not put into effect an end date, which kind of makes me a little bit nervous because we can't plan, and it gives some uncertainty into the marketplace, especially in real estate, because our job is people to people, face to face, in order to sell a house. But we'll get into that towards the end of this segment because we're going to have some time to talk about some of the changes that are going down in the real estate market that may affect you as we're moving forward in this shelter in place. But before we get into that, I want to read you the text of the executive order, and it reads as follows. It says, I hereby order that the time limitations set forth in Penal Code Section 396, Subdivision F, concerning protections against residential eviction is hereby waived. Those protections shall be in effect through May 31st, 2020. So, the protections that I'm talking to you about right now will stay in effect until May 31st of this year only. Any provision of state law that would preempt or otherwise restrict a local government's exercise of its police power to impose substantive limitations on residential or commercial evictions as described in subparagraph I and 2I below, including but not limited to any such provision of Civil Code Section 1940, etc., or 1945.25, etc., is hereby suspended to the extent that it would preempt or otherwise restrict such exercise. So, a lot of legal jargon for their suspending stuff, okay, to protect you guys from evictions and foreclosure. This paragraph 2 shall only apply to the imposition of limitations on evictions when. All right, so this is the scope where you're protected from evictions. The basis for the eviction is non-payment of rent or a foreclosure arising out of a substantial decrease in household or business income, including but not limited to a substantial decrease in household income caused by layoffs or a reduction in the number of compensable hours of work, or a substantial decrease in business income caused by a reduction in opening hours or consumer demand, or substantial out-of-pocket medical expenses. So this is pretty broad, actually. It's going to protect you from evictions on the commercial side and the residential side, and foreclosure when you have had a substantial decrease in household or business income because of paragraph 2, the decrease in household or business income or the out-of-pocket medical expenses described in subparagraph I was caused by the COVID-19 pandemic or by any local, state, or federal government response to COVID-19 and is documented. There it is. The umbrella covers you because the shelter-in-place order is documented. It's an executive order that was signed by the governor. So there's your first bit of substantiation that you can use to protect yourself from eviction should you have substantial decrease in household income or business income due to the COVID-19 shelter-in-place order. And so that protects you if the decrease is caused by layoffs. So if you were laid off because of COVID-19, or a reduction in the number of I'm going to call it compensatable hours. So if your hours have been cut, say you work at the outlets or you work at the mall and that's how you pay your bills, and the mall is shut down, you're protected from eviction and foreclosure. Substantial decrease in business income because you're no longer open, so you own a store in the mall and you can't be open, and or consumer demand has gone down. So for me as a realtor, consumer demand could drop off of a cliff because buyers aren't in the marketplace right now and sellers don't feel comfortable listing their houses for sale during the shelter in place order. My income could drop off. And so if I can't meet my household mortgage, or if I can't meet my commercial lease space or rent space because of this shelter in place order, this document signed by the governor should protect me or you from being evicted due to the lack of payment of rent, or foreclosed upon due to the lack of payment of a mortgage. So there you have it. That's the executive order signed by the governor, and it will be effective through May 31st, 2020. So that gives me some sort of indication of where the governor's head is at in regards to thinking of when this shelter in place order may end. He may be thinking May 31st. I hope it's sooner than that. I'm hoping for Easter. I'm hoping that we have a giant Easter Sunday celebration with friends and family and church and big dinners to celebrate the end of this crisis. But as far as anything that's been written, this is where I see a date, and it's May 31st of 2020. So if you guys have any questions regarding this order, you can let me know. Give me a call directly at 408-472-0817, or you can contact me at info@realestateconnectionradio.com. Again, that's info@realestateconnectionradio.com, and I'd be happy to send you a copy of this executive order. I pulled it down from the governor's executive order website. But before we wrap this section of the show, I wanted to share with you what some of the practical issues that the real estate industry is facing right now as it relates to shelter in place. Now, there are a lot of people who have initiated refinances, and there are a lot of people that went into contract on the purchase of a home right when this order hit. However, with the shelter in place order and people that are out there who are hesitant to let strangers into their home, we have issues with appraisals. You have to have an appraisal on the house you're buying in order to close escrow per the terms of the loan contract that you're signing with the bank, and you have to have an appraisal as it relates to a refinance. These appraisals have to be done inside of your property, which means you would be letting somebody into your house whom you are not sure of their health status, because they may not even be sure of their health status, to come into your home, right? So that's a big hurdle to overcome when you're trying to get a loan done, right? So lenders have been altering how they do appraisals. They've been doing drive-by appraisals where they just drive by the house and take a look at it from the outside. They've been doing desktop appraisals where they basically look up the data on your house from your property tax records, and then they pull the comparables off the internet and compare it based on just a desktop examination. However, there are also other things that are happening in regards to appraisals. Homeowners are getting smart because there's also fear from the appraisers not wanting to go inside. So the advice that realtors have been giving people who are in the middle of a refinance and want to make sure that the appraiser has a good look on the interior of your home is use technology. Either use FaceTime if you have Apple, or Skype, and then Skype with the appraiser and walk around your house with your phone facing out so that the appraiser can see the inside of your home in the various rooms, and then walk around the exterior of your home with the appraiser on the phone so that they feel comfortable that they've seen your home and they can still do a real traditional appraisal. Some of these things that we're dealing with right now, I think, are gonna stay permanent because they're more efficient as far as getting things done in the real estate industry. Because why not use technology? There's never been a real reason to use it other than now, and it may become best practice in the future. So when we get back from paying some bills, we're gonna wrap the show, and I appreciate you guys staying with me, and I'll see you when we get back in a minute. All right, folks, this is the last segment. Thank you for staying with me. I hope you found the information helpful. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining me this morning on the Real Estate Connection in our second shelter in place edition. I've had to do the show from my home studio. I'm not allowed to go into the studio and record the show or do the show in that setting. So we've been doing these shows via phone and remotely, and I hope that the quality has still maintained the level that we have in studio. I thank you for joining me today as we've gone through the effects of skipping a mortgage payment and California's executive order on evictions and foreclosures. We've learned a few things. One, it takes 15 days or 10 to 15 days before a late payment penalty is incurred on a mortgage payment, and it usually runs between 4 to 5%. We've also learned that it takes 60 days of missing a late payment before it gets reported to the credit bureaus. We've also gone through the fact that if you've never missed a payment and then you get into a situation where you miss one and it gets reported to the credit bureau and you have a high credit score, it could drop you about 100 points. And then we've also gone through the fact that it takes 90 days of missing a payment before a notice of default is filed for the foreclosure process. We've also discussed that you can talk to your bank if you see this coming and try to get a forbearance, which means that you can delay late payment penalties or delay a report to the credit bureau if you negotiate a forbearance with your lender, which could save your credit or save an NOD being filed on your house. And we've also gone through the executive order signed by the governor of the state of California that says that mortgage servicers or landlords, either based for commercial or residential, are not allowed to evict you or foreclose upon you if you've seen a substantial reduction of income related to your the COVID-19 shelter-in-place order. So if your hours have been cut or you've been laid off, or if you're a business owner and you're not allowed to be open and you're not getting in the money that you normally get in order to pay your bills, whether it be for residential or for commercial, they can't kick you out and they can't foreclose on you. And that's up until May 31st, 2020 of this year. And we've also been discussing how best practices have changed in the real estate industry in regards to appraisals, how the use of technology has been engaged across the board in the state of California in order for an appraiser to still get an appraisal done. You can make an appointment with your appraisal person and do a Skype phone call or a FaceTime with that person. And since they need to get inside your house, why not use technology to let them walk through your house virtually? You can walk around the house with your cell phone, point it out into all the rooms, point out all your upgrades, and point out all of the bells and whistles in your house that you have that supports the value, and then walk around the exterior of the home to show that your house is in good condition. If you don't have FaceTime or Skype, you can also take pictures of the inside of your home and send those photographs via email to your appraiser so that they feel like they've done their work in going inside of the house and actually taking a look so that they can give you a fair appraised value of your home and keep your refinance moving forward and keep your purchase moving forward so you can close escrow on the home that went into contract before this shelter-in-place order was signed by the governor. So I hope you guys have found that useful. We're still doing business out here, folks. We just have adjusted. And I think that some of these adjustments will stay because it allows things to get done quicker. And it's just as good as showing up for some parts of the industry. If you have any questions regarding your real estate situation as it relates to the shelter in place order in the state of California, feel free to reach out to me at info@realestateconnectionradio.com. Again, that's info@realestateconnectionradio.com. Other than that, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. I hope you found the information useful. Stay safe, shelter in place, follow the order so that we can get through this quicker. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless the United States of America. This is Stephen Thayard with the Real Estate Connection, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, thank you, Mr. Producer. I appreciate it, and thanks for stepping in for Marco. All right, thank you. All right, take care. All right, bye-bye. All right, that's it for the recorded show. Thanks everybody for joining me live on YouTube and Facebook. If you missed the show and you want to see past shows, you can go to my YouTube page and subscribe. I broadcast live every week at 12 noon on Wednesdays, Pacific Standard Time. All right. Again, if you have any questions regarding your particular situation as it relates to real estate in the shelter-in-place order here in the state of California, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you out. Other than that, thank you very much. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye-bye.